David, welcome to Behind the Build. How's everything going today?
Going great today. Thanks for having me on your show today. I really appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Nice. So you're calling in from Manitoba, right?
Yeah, we're based out of Winnipeg. I grew up here, and I'm lucky enough to call Winnipeg my home.
Okay, nice. Yeah, there's a lot of hometown Winnipeg people that really are kind of patriotic, I noticed.
It's a lot to endure. We've got winter season, and we've got construction season, and then we've got 2 weeks in the middle where we have mosquito season. So
Right.
we really get to enjoy all 3 seasons fully. And so if you can endure that and still make it through the other side, then you become very patriotic about Winnipeg. And we've got the best NHL team in the league right now. So
Right.
we got that to look forward to.
Yeah. I saw that you were recognized by the Manitoba Tech Awards recently, like most promising founder. How was that moment like?
I unfortunately was out of the country when I found out about that, which was too bad. But 3 years ago, if you had told me as a contractor that I'd be recognized as a tech founder or a most promising tech founder, that would have come to a surprise for me. So it was very nice. It's really a testament to like the amount of work that we've been able to do in the last couple of years. And I wouldn't consider myself a tech person whatsoever. I'm a blue collar contractor.
Yeah.
I think that's who I am, and I'm just pretending to be a tech founder. So
right. Well, you're honest enough to admit it. Eh? No, that's great. For those tuning in, so I'm Renee Sampson. This is Andre Sampson, my brother, and this is Behind the Build. So this is the show where we sit down with founders and builders that are shaping the future of construction. And David, we believe you perfectly fit the bill. So David is the founder of Construction Clock. So this is an app that's making automatic time tracking for crews ridiculously easy. During this call, we're just going to dive into what you do, David, and how you're helping in the construction industry. So,
awesome.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, obviously your background is very interesting to us, how you've transitioned to SaaS. So you spent a decade running Peterbilt, right? And now you're building like a fast-growing tech startup. So what sparked that shift?
Yeah, they were very different businesses. My last name's Peters, so I called my company Peters Build. Everybody thought that Peters was my first name, so I go by Peter or David now. So I was running a construction company very early on in my life. In my early 20s, I got a GST number here in Canada, and then I just started like subcontracting work and talking to customers, and then eventually I found my own work. By my mid 20s, I was, running jobs for myself and had a couple of employees, and it really took a toll after 15 years of doing that, especially on the body. Like construction's really tough on the body. Mm-hmm. In Canada, you're dealing with winter and summer, so you got 80-degree swings. I'm sure that takes a toll on the joints, which it did for me. My back was at a point where I'm 6'4", being bent over constantly, always picking up material for 17 years, took a toll. And then COVID hit, and I'm laying on the couch in January, kind of looking at what kind of year I'm going to have. My back is pretty herniated at that point, so I'm trying to recover from that. COVID created some interesting issues in construction. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about what else I would be doing if I hadn't become a contractor. And one of the things I thought about was all of the pain points that contractors face every day. And you guys both being in construction, that there's no shortage of pain points that we face every single day, from material shortages and labor shortages and just the inefficiencies of job sites.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down this road of, okay, what would this look like? What would be the biggest pain points I would solve? And for me, the biggest pain point that I had faced is as I was scaling up the number of employees I had, things were getting super inefficient. So, you add a second crew, okay, now you're trying to keep eyes and ears on 2 crews while also just being on site and trying to manage everything. But as you scale up, the efficiency goes down. And I wanted to solve for that because I wasn't able to scale more than like 10 or 12 employees. I was just too stressed out. And so time cards were always a pain point, getting guys to submit hours on time so they could get paid. And then you look at their hours and you don't believe that they've been allocated correctly. What jobs were these hours from? Okay, and most of the time they were like filling it out on a Friday afternoon. And they're just kind of guessing, yeah, I think we worked 6 hours here. I think we worked 4 hours there. And then you're trying to bill your customers accordingly. And the whole thing is like with a margin of error of like 25% inaccuracy. And so how do you run a business like that at scale if you can't get your numbers right? And 50% of my costs are labor. The other 50% are materials. And so I thought this is a real pain point for my business. I bet you a lot of other companies have this pain point. What's the single biggest way for us to eliminate this pain point? To automate the entire process. So my vision was an employee starts their day, they go to site, they go to a material supplier, they go eat lunch, they come back to site, maybe they finish that job and they start another job. And throughout that entire day, your phone captures all of that and you never have to clock in, you never have to remember anything. It just automatically tracks all of that. And then in real time, the owner of the company can look on the app and see, this is where I have employees, this is where I have projects going on. And in real time, I can see exactly how many hours I'm into each project for, how much this project's costing me on the labor side, and exactly how much each employee is made in a specific pay period. And I can just quickly export that and pay them. Mm-hmm. So that was my vision that I had about 2.5 years ago. And we started this company here in Winnipeg, and I had no idea what I was doing. But like construction, you figure things out. If you don't know how to do something, you just learn. And so we hired a few developers in-house here, and we started building the very first version of our app. And we launched it, about 2.5 years ago. We incorporated our company, and then I got out and I started selling to everybody I could. So at the beginning, it's very hard to sell an app when it's a very poor version of what it is now. And so I just started having contractors using it for free and just use this app and give us feedback. And they did. We got about 40 companies here in Winnipeg to use the app and give us a bunch of feedback. And through that, we started iterating and our team grew. And in 2 years, we grew to well over 1,000 construction companies around the world that are using this now. And so a lot of work went into this, but now we have something that is a really great tool for the construction industry, especially small and medium-sized contractors.
Mm-hmm. Wow, no, that's really impressive. So just for those listening, I'm not sure if you mentioned the name, but it's called Construction Clock, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, we're called Construction Clock. If you look us up online or on the App Store, all one word, Construction Clock, and we're the automatic time tracking app. That's what our slogan is the automatic time tracking app. And so, if anybody wants to use it, it takes like all of 15 seconds to onboard yourself, create a project, you get auto clocked in. Anybody that downloads our app can see the magic in our app very quickly, and we have a very high conversion rate because of that, because a lot of people are so frustrated with what they're using right now, either it's pen or paper or guys texting hours or a manual entry time tracking app that when they switch to us, it's usually a really good fit for them.
So what makes it different from other time tracking apps, or are there other time tracking apps in the industry right now?
Yeah, there's hundreds. There's hundreds of time tracking apps, and they all basically do the same thing. They are typically, from my perspective, poor in design. You create a project, and it's basically like a digital time card where somebody can clock in manually to that project, and they have to pull out their phone and open up the app and open up the project and clock into that project. And then when they leave, they have to remember to open up the app and manually clock out. And so you've got a bunch of like hundreds of apps that all do the same thing. That is manual entry. Some have GPS, some don't, but it's just remembering. And like, if it's raining outside or it's snowing or it's 7 a.m. on a Monday morning, the last thing you're going to remember is, oh, I got to remember to clock in, you know? And so that is our key differentiators. You don't have to do any of that. Once you download our app and set it up, you never have to touch it again. It just automatically clocks you in and out of project. And that is our big differentiator in Construction Clock.
Nice. So how do you keep user experience simple? I mean, you're working with tradespeople, right? They're not necessarily all tech savvy. Maybe that's an understatement, but so while you're still offering like these robust features, you know, like payroll exports and photos, GPS check-ins, and so on. So how do you keep it really simple, I guess?
Yeah, so I'm lucky in that I was a little bit tech savvy when I started this, in that like I loved, you know, I'm on an iPhone and I love Apple because everything that you do in Apple is just super easy. And so that was kind of our North Star from day one, is like, how do we keep it extremely simple? And that sometimes meant that we couldn't put in every feature. People would say, can I also do all my safety documentation on here? Well, no, because that would get away from the fact that we are a simple app for you to use. We do three things. We have projects, we have people in the app, and we have timesheets. And so inside the app, we do those three things. And, you know, you can take photos on the job site, you can do notes, and you can do tasks. But we started with auto clock in, auto clock out of projects. And we've really had this core belief that everything should be simple all the time. And then we just looked at what Apple was doing. Everything that they did is like, it takes 2 seconds to do a certain action. So let's make sure that when you come into Construction Clock, it's very easy to onboard. It's very easy to create a project. It's very easy to add your teammates, like all of your employees or your subcontractors. And then it's incredibly easy to manage all of that. So opening up timesheets inside of a project or exporting to QuickBooks. So that has been, we do a few things and we do it better than anybody. And so since we say no to a lot of things, like doing safety documentation and things like that, it allows the user experience to be very easy on Construction Clock.
No, I think that's a great thing to focus on, and easy to get distracted from that and start, like you're saying, adding features, and to be able to say no, I think is it's a really good quality.
Yeah,
I'm sure the pressure is on you to start growing and you know, adding more and more things.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask a little bit about the industry. So you're talking about how simple it is to use. Do you find that most construction companies are ready to adopt tools like Construction Clock, or are you seeing some resistance?
So we're very honed in on who our ideal customer is. And so we're pretty open about the fact that we don't really serve larger construction companies. You know, after they have like 30, 40 employees, they typically have some sort of construction management software that they're using. They have a bunch of systems and processes in place, and then onboarding something like Construction Clock. Now you're getting into a territory where it's like, well, does that integrate into our project management software? Who we're really focused on is small construction companies that have either it's just the owner and they're out there swinging a hammer, up to about 20 to 25 employees. That is really a construction company like that will not have, project management software that they're using. They typically aren't even using construction software at all.
Mhm.
They are looking for a replacement for pen and paper based documentation. And there's a number of apps that are really best in class for estimating, for invoicing, for things like that. And what we are is we are typically the very first piece of tech inside of a small construction company's tech stack. And most of them don't even know that they have a tech stack because they haven't even started it. But we will come in and we will be their time and attendance software. And then what we can do is we can give recommendations of like, okay, well, what are you doing for payroll? Well, we're writing checks. Okay, so we integrate directly into QuickBooks Online. And so then typically that's something that they consider doing after is, okay, we'll start using QuickBooks Online. And then they'll start building their tech stack from there. So we've really focused on the really small construction company, which there's a lot of them. And the people that typically adopt us the fastest are what we find is somebody in their 20s, 30s that is taking over a construction company from their dad.
Mhm.
And they've kind of gotten given this, they were an apprentice in their dad's company. Now they got given this construction company and they're like, look, like there's got to be easier ways than the way my dad did it. And then they start looking at like, oh, okay, well, construction clock can be something that takes this, 4-hour process on a Saturday that the owner has to do at home and turns it into a 15-minute job on Friday afternoon where they export it and then they run payroll for their entire team. And it's as simple as that. So it's really like usually somebody that's younger in the construction industry that really wants to automate things, because we all know in construction, everyone's super busy all the time. And there is a lot of tools to make your job site easier, like they're coming out with battery powered everything. It's almost amazing. And yet like some of the software tools we use are really limited to just like large construction companies. You look at Procore and Builder Trend and all these things, the average small construction company cannot afford a subscription to those, and they don't need 90% of the features that are in there. So what we're built for is that really small construction company.
Nice. So it connects with QuickBooks, right? Is that like they have to have QuickBooks, or they have to use that accounting software?
No, we export into 3 different methods. You can either export into Excel. So oftentimes we'll work with a construction company and it's like, well, how are you running payroll? Well, my bookkeeper does it. And so the bookkeeper will be on our app and they will just export as an Excel. And then if they're doing electronic deposits right into everyone's bank account, it's just a simple Excel spreadsheet. The other way we do it is as a PDF. So oftentimes what we'll find is like the owner or the owner's wife or somebody in the company is doing payroll, and then they can just generate a PDF document of everyone's hours. It takes like 2 seconds. You just go to timesheets, you export all your employees for the pay period, and then you have basically a summary at the top of each employee, all their hours, and then you can just use that to run your payroll, or you can integrate directly into QuickBooks Online. We're also integrated into Xero now. So Xero, since we have a big presence in Australia, Xero is like what every contractor uses down there. And so we also integrated into Xero. And so we're slowly now integrating into all these different accounting softwares and payroll softwares. But we started with QuickBooks Online, and then now we've done Xero, and you can also do it in Excel or generating a PDF document.
Nice. No, that's great. Andre, do you have any questions or?
Well, I was just gonna say, I can attest to the usefulness of your operation there. I was a carpenter for 15 years, working for companies of that size, and I remember how painful it was at the end of the week to try to remember my hours each day, piece it together, send it off. I think you're saving a lot of time for carpenters as well as contractors.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really twofold for the employees. Once they can get past this, like, hey, my boss is tracking my every location, which isn't happening. Once they can get past that, then it's like peace of mind that they never have to think about their hours ever again and what jobs that they worked on and how long they were there. And on the owner's side, there's peace of mind knowing that I'm only paying my guys for the time that they spent on site and the travel time between jobs and things like that. But what I was finding when I ran a construction company is a lot of the guys forgot, and then by the end of the week, they don't want to underpay themselves, so they'll tack on an extra 10 or 15 minutes on each day to make sure that they've covered it. And then at the end of the year, for a small contractor like myself, that's an extra $50,000 to $100,000 that I paid in wages, just because it's like slowly chipped away at my profit at the end of the year. And it really adds up for a small contractor. So for the employee side, it's a huge benefit for it's peace of mind. You never have to think about the jobs that you worked on and the hours that you worked. But it's a real benefit for the owner too. I think that there's key benefits for both.
In a couple of years that you've been working with the contractors, did you ever see the situation where you worked yourself out of a job in the sense of making it so easy for them and helping them grow their business so much that they get past that 2025 employee, and then they're moving on to the next level?
Yeah, there has been a number of instances where they're still on our platform, and we love to see that, but certain companies have been able to add 10, 20, 30% to their field staff, because now they've got this entire thing checked off where they're like, okay, like if it's not that hard to add a person because we can track, what jobs they're working on, then let's add a couple more bodies this year. And it hasn't, luckily for us, it hasn't meant that they go to another platform. It's typically that they just start now using a construction management software, because they get to the point where they get to take off their tool belt and go into an office and actually get some office work done. So I love to see that. I think the biggest benefit that I would love to see with the software that we come out with is that people like me, when we were working in the field, were able to at least hang up the tool belt and then get a bunch of work done that happens evenings and weekends. Now that can happen during the day. Because for a number of years, I just didn't have a life. I was just working all day, and then in the evenings I would go out and quote. And then on the weekends, I was doing all the admin work, invoicing, trying to collect money, order materials. And you just don't have a life for a long time. You're making money, but you're like burning out.
Mm-hmm. So have you ever thought about becoming that next step, like after Construction Clock, either building another app, or having the option of going advanced mode with this app?
Yeah, we think about that quite a bit in our company. Like, where's this app going? Where's the biggest opportunity for us to have impact? And I think that's the thing we focus most on, is what's the most amount of impact. And so what I've found is we're a really great fit for small construction company owners, and you can either go deep or you can go wide. And so we've made the decision that we want to go deep, in that we want to focus purely on this small and medium contractor. We never want to, there's enough companies making software for the large construction companies. So I don't need to be another player in that game. I think what we want to do is we want to go deep. We want to stay with the small and medium contractors, and we want to give them more tools. Some of the things that we've been thinking about is when do we introduce payroll? Do we introduce things like earned wage access? So all the hours are verified in the app. Do we give employees the option of being able to pull out money whenever they need it? Why do they have to wait 2 weeks to get paid? Why can't they pay themselves, a couple $100 because there's a car payment coming out? For myself, when I ran a construction business, there was always a couple of employees that would come to me and say hey, I need to borrow $500. I'll pay you back at payday. why can't we give this to the employees? They should be able to have access to that money. And if the company wants to offer that, that would be a huge incentive for employees to use Construction Clock. You earn the hours, you have access to those earned wages anytime. And so those are some of the things that we think about that would have real impact on in our industry. If I go drive Uber tonight and go, bring some food to people's houses, I can get paid for that immediately. But as a contract or as a construction worker, there's like even 1 week holdback. So when I start a new job, there could be 3 weeks before I actually get paid. And, I understand that there's a need for that. But, when you start trusting your employees, there's also a need to work around their life and give them access to money when they need it. And so those are some of the things that we're thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah.
It sounds like a really attractive feature.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's pushback from owners that are like, okay. And so that's why we would give it as a feature that each company could offer if they wanted to. But when you really get into the mind of the employee, you're like, what does the employee need? When you were a contractor, Andre, what were the things that incentivized you? And it was obviously not, writing down your hours promptly every single day. But a lot of guys that get into the trades, or lots of people that get into the trades, they're trying to figure out if this is something that they want to do as a career. And some people do it as a career and some people don't. But typically, you get into the trades because you love working with your hands. And for me, I got into the trades because it was like, I don't want to work in a factory, and there's more money to be made in construction. And so I was very incentivized by working hard and making money. And so that should not be something that we don't talk about. I think it should be something like employees want to make money and they want to get paid. So that's why we think about going in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, your market is huge. I mean, if you're talking about Australia too, there's plenty of small to medium-sized construction companies. I mean, it's a massive market.
Yeah, we're now in 25 plus countries, but our big markets are obviously US and Canada, and then the UK is a big market for us, and New Zealand and Australia are big markets for us. So construction happens everywhere. So why would we limit ourselves to just maybe Canada and the US when there's construction happening everywhere, and we've had great success in those markets.
Mm-hmm. So where do you see yourself in 6 to 12 months or 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, so now we're at a place where we've got a really nice team built out. We're at about 25 people in our company, and we're able to build things relatively quickly. We get a lot of feedback from our customers. So what are you looking for? What would you like to see? We ask that to our customers every single day. And we are going to this year, we came out with Auto Clock, and Auto Clock was great. You create a project, and then everybody that goes to that project gets auto clocked in and out. We're going to come out this year with something called Super Clock, and Super Clock just builds off of Auto Clock, which is you download the app, you jump in there, you never have to create a project, you never have to think about anything. You register on the app, like you start your company, and then you never have to think about it again. When you're at a job for a couple of hours, it's automatically going to create a project there, and it's going to clock you in for when you got there. And so you're auto clocked into a project, but you never had to create it. It pulls an address, you can give it a name if you want, boom. So and this is really great for companies like, service type of, they're not construction, but they're service-based businesses. So you're an HVAC company and you're going to do repairs and maintenance so you're going to 10 or 15 different sites. You don't have time to create all these projects and then go there and get auto clocked in. So what's really important then is that it all happens automatically. You just go throughout your entire day and it tracks your entire working day. So if your working hours are 7 to 4, from 7 to 4, it's just tracking your day and automatically creating projects. Then if you go to a supply house and you're going to go pick up material, it knows off of Google Maps that that's a supply house, and it automatically will create a supply house there the first time you go there. So boom, the Home Depot. Okay, it creates a supplier, and then you go back to the job site. Well, it'll take all that travel time and the time at that supply house and allocate it back to that project, because we all know that oftentimes on projects you're going somewhere to pick up material. You're going to go get lunch, and then you're going to go back to that site. Well, all that time, besides the time you had lunch, was allocated back to that job and needs to be billed there. So we automatically do that. So SuperClock is going to be a game changer in terms of being able to, you download the app and then you just stop thinking about it. At the end of every day, it'll give you a report of what your day was like. Here's all the projects you went to. Here's all the supply houses. This is how much time you spent on travel. And it'll just give you a breakdown. And so once a day, you look at your phone. Yep, this all looks good. Done. You don't have to do nothing. And so that's the iteration that we're doing this year off of AutoClock.
Nice. Very attractive, I'm sure, for contractors.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So if let's say there's a contractor listening right now who's still using, paper timesheets or spreadsheets, what would you say to them about trying Construction Clock?
So if you're using paper timesheets right now, I understand why you're doing it, because it's a tried and true method. It works. Like, I would say you should use Construction Clock if you're getting to the point where you want to make your business more efficient. You're going to save immediately. You're going to save admin time. You're going to save however long it takes you to do all those paper timesheets and get them over to the payroll side. So at a minimum, you're going to save on admin time. What you're going to also realize is now you can begin to accurately start job costing. So every job, you're going to be able to job cost now on the labor accurately, where on paper timesheets, it's a good guess. People are going to say that they were at this job for this long. So if you want to tighten up all those things inside of your small construction business and really get a couple of percentage points more profit margin in your year, Construction Clock is going to be a great option for you, and it's incredibly affordable. Not only are we better than a lot of the manual entry time tracking apps, we're also cheaper than everyone else. And so the biggest thing for us was, let's make it better, faster, and cheaper than everyone else. And so it's not a big lift on the cost side. You get to try our app for a week for free. And if you don't like it after that, there's no obligation. You don't have to give us your credit card. So really, it's a completely risk-free trial to give our app a try. And what we're finding is the majority of companies that come on with paper timesheets and give our app an honest try usually end up converting, because they see how much time it gives them back.
Mm-hmm.
What's the approximate return of investment for a contractor that downloads the app?
So a company that has 5 employees, it's about $20,000 to $25,000 per year in when you combine the amount of time that you save on the admin side, not having to pay the bookkeeper to do, sort through timesheets to get hours on specific jobs and payroll and things like that. And then, the amount of time theft that you end up saving, like, we don't call it time theft, but it's just the amount of hours that were actually spent that you're paying for get tightened up a little bit, and that ends up being about $20,000 to $25,000 for the average 5-person construction company. And for myself, when we were at 5 people, my net profit at the end of the year might have been $100,000 to $150,000. So it's a significant amount at the end of the year that it will make a difference.
Many multiples from what they pay for your app.
Yeah, so we charge $10 US per employee per month, and you will save a multiple of probably 5 to 10 on that in your company based on how big you are.
That sounds like a no-brainer to me. What do you think, Andre?
Yeah, well, if you convert that to percentage numbers, it's 500 to 1,000%, right? If you look at it
Yep.
in those terms.
Exactly.
Yeah, $10 broken out over a month, over 30 days times 8 hours. I mean, it's pennies.
Yeah, it's a rounding error, and it really will, when if you look at the opportunity cost of being able to hire now more people because of it, the multiple is even higher. But yeah, the cost of it is extremely minimal compared to what you benefit.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, David, this was a blast. Thanks so much for coming on today. I think this is an awesome product. We're going to be actively trying to promote you to the contractors that we know for sure. And who knows, we might try you out ourselves.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you very much, Renee and Andre, for having me on today.
Yeah, David, before you go, where can people go to download the app or to follow your journey or to book a demo?
Yeah, so to book a demo, just go to constructionclock.com. And it's very easy to book a demo with one of our team members. And then if you want to try our app completely risk-free, you just go to either the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store and search all one word Construction Clock, and we'll pop up right at the top. So you just download our app and register, and you get to try it, add all your employees, add all your projects, and you can try it risk-free for a week.
Yeah, great. Well, it's going to be exciting watching your company grow, as I'm sure it will over the coming months and years. So
Yeah.
Thanks again, David. We'll have to do this again in 6 months to a year and just talk about how far you've come since now.
Yeah, count me in.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much for joining in, David.
Thanks for having me. Bye for now.
All right. Take care. Bye.